good Sunday afternoon. It is April the 5th, 2020. I'm going to try two new dishes today that I've tried to come up with. And I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first one. Now, I like apples. I like apple pie, apple crisp, fried apples. But I've never really tried baked apples before. So I'm going to make an attempt to make baked apples. So what I've got here, I've got 6 apples. These are Granny Smith apples. So what you would want to do is use a Granny Smith or whatever kind of apple that is good to cook with. And what I did was I took each apple and I got the core out of it with a knife and a spoon. If you have one of those melon baller gadgets, that'll help you too. What you don't want to do is you do not want to go all the way through the bottom, because I'm going to stuff it with an oatmeal mixture, and I'll show you here in just a minute what I'm talking about. But what you would want to do is you want to get inside, scoop out all the seeds and stuff. You sure don't want to eat the core of an apple, if you catch my drift. And then go to the bottom. You see where on this one I left enough space, but you want to get that bottom part out too with a knife. So let the grown-ups use the knife. And what I did was I prepared these, and then I got me some lemon juice of a half of a lemon, and I sprinkled the inside of each one. That way it'll keep it from turning brown. See, these are on the verge of being brown, and you don't want that. So I'm hurrying up the best I can. Alright, so let me get the butter out of the microwave. You will want to use some butter to go inside the filling, to go with the filling, I should say. Now, in the bowl, I've got probably about a cup of oatmeal, probably a half cup of flour. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add some brown sugar. Just add a few tablespoons of brown sugar. Now, I keep my brown sugar in the freezer. And then when I need it, I just thaw it out and put it back in there when I'm done. Okay, a few tablespoons, about 3 or 4, somewhere through there. And then I'm going to add some spices. I've got some allspice here. You do not want to overdo it with your spices, because if you do, it'll overpower the whole thing. You don't want that. Got some nutmeg here. I'll say about half a teaspoon of each. And some cinnamon. Now, if you're allergic to cinnamon, you might want to leave that out, because I know some people who are allergic to cinnamon, so they can use the other two instead. You can use ground cloves. I've got some over there. And I'm going to get a spoon or something. Hold on just a second. Just got a spoon here. And I'm going to probably have a couple tablespoons, 3 or 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You want to use the real thing. You don't want to use the fake stuff. And then with clean hands, this is like making biscuits. Okay? Make sure that you have clean hands. Clean hands are a cook's best tool. So you want to cut the butter into the mixture. It's like cutting the shortening into the flour until it resembles a small piece. And so I'm getting close to that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff each apple with this filling. The butter is going to go all the way through these apples, and it's going to make it taste really good. Now, so this is what I'm talking about. You take using your hands, and try not to get it all over the place if you can. Okay, and if you do, that'd be fine. This is just an experiment. Okay. I should have done this on a plate and then put it in the pan. I got my oven preheated to 400 degrees. I think this would have helped if I had a spoon to do this with. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to clean this up right here. And then I'm going to show you what else I'm going to do before I put it in the oven. So I want you to stay tuned, because I've got something else coming up right here in just a minute. Alright everybody, things look so much better over here. I took these apples out and put it on the plate and then put the filling back in here. And what I'm going to do next is I've got some apple juice, and I'm going to pour this in the pan. It's going to help cook the apples. Okay, so probably a cup of apple juice will do good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it with aluminum foil the first part of cooking. So I'm going to say that you want to make sure that you tightly wrap the apples. Okay, tightly put the lid over your pan. It's going to help cook the apples. I'm going to say probably the first half of cooking time, I'm going to leave the foil in there, and then the second half, I'm going to take it off so the filling can get good and golden brown. Now, I'm going to assume probably about 55 to 60 minutes. Depending upon the size of your apples, I would say probably about 55 minutes to an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this, I'm going to put it in the oven and let it cook, and I can't wait to see how this turns out. So I want you to stay tuned. I'm going to make some pork chops next. Alright everybody, welcome back. I've got the apples in the oven. They still like another 50 minutes to go. In the meantime, I'm going to make some pork chops. Now, you've already seen me make pork chops before, a couple of ways, but I never had really tried anything as far as marinating them. And I've done some research online, and I wasn't too crazy about some of the things, so I thought, well, I'll try to come up with something of my own, a recipe of my own, and I formulated this myself, well, with the help of the Lord, and it turned out really, really good. And so I'm going to show you what I did. Now, I don't measure anything a whole lot much. I just eyeball it. In this case, I'm going to eyeball some, but I'm going to have to measure some things out too. So when you're baking like a cake or a pie or something, you make the pie crust, you have to do that. You just can't take a guess at it. Alright, so to start off, a half cup of olive oil, and I've got this in the bowl right here. 1/2 cup olive oil. I've got 6 tablespoons of brown sugar. Then I cut a lemon in half, and I'm going to squeeze. Whoops, some of it didn't go in the bowl, but that's okay. So juice of a half of a lemon. Don't use that stuff out of the bottle. It's not worth it. Alright, then I'm going to use about 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. And I'm going to eyeball it. And I'm going to say that's 2 teaspoons. And 2 teaspoons, I'll get that right here in a minute, 2 teaspoons of onion powder. Okay. Now, I'm going to use a tablespoon of mustard, just regular mustard, that you put on hot dogs. And when I made this, I was like, wow. And I was so thankful that it turned out the way it did. A tablespoon of mustard. And by the way, you won't be able to taste the mustard in it because everything else will be mixed in. So that's a good thing. Tablespoon of mustard. Okay. 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar. So we'll measure that out. 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. Whoops. Alright, now I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. Now, like I said, I created this on my own. I actually did it last night. 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then, this is where the salt is going to come in. You won't need to put salt in this because you're going to be using soy sauce. And if my mama knew that this had soy sauce in it, she wouldn't eat it. Alright, but I like soy sauce. 1 tablespoon. This is the salt in it. You won't need to put no salt in it at all. Okay? Won't need that anymore. Let me move this out of the way, and you're going to take a whisk. And just blend everything together. And there you go. I'm going to get a spoon. I'm going to taste it. Okay. That's really good. You can't hardly taste the mustard in it. It's a little bit of tanginess and the sweetness from the brown sugar. It's really, really good, and it's ready to go. Now, this is what I did. Depending upon how many pork chops. Now, I marinated 7 pork chops. This is good for 7 pork chops. Now, what I did was the first batch that I made last night of the marinade, I put it in a Ziploc bag. Then I added the pork chops, and what I did, you want to use a gallon size. Just, well, that went on the countertop. That's okay. It can be used, and I'll clean that up. So what I did was I sort of moved the bag around like that and make sure that everything was covered. And I put it in the refrigerator overnight. Okay? Let it marinate overnight. I actually cooked one this morning to see how it turned out. And it turned out really, really